Someone knows how to speed up the printing of documents. See me. I've got a computer in there that's recalcitrant. Okay. In the awareness of God present, let us pray. Father, Mother God, we give thanks for this opportunity to be aware of your presence, to open ourselves to the expression of your love, to be receptive to your wisdom, your guidance, to be willing to be you in expression in this moment. We invite that responsibility. We accept that responsibility. And in this moment, we are feeling you move through us into this community, into the greater community, to embrace the world. We accept the responsibility of being you in this moment. We breathe into that. We acknowledge that it is significant that we're asking to be the expression of you here now. And we know that we will be guided. We will be lifted. We will be transformed in this process. And for that, we give thanks. And so it is that together we say, Amen.
David, your new slides did not make it over.
Okay. We will just go with that. If anybody is a Dropbox expert, yes, see me. All right. So this series that we've been working on is one of energy, the universe, miracles, and you. And I have been spending some time on expressing these ideas of quantum theory. And you may say, well, why are you spending time on a Sunday morning? I mean, we're here for religion after all. God's sakes. Literally, for God's sake. But we are, if we're going to understand how we progress in our spiritual path, it's my opinion that we need to understand the domain in which we're working. We need to really understand that we are not separate and apart from each other. And it turns out that there are opportunities in the interpretation of quantum theory to realize that, yes, indeed, physicists actually have been speaking this for the last, literally for the last 100 years. I've had several slides that I've put up the last couple of weeks that they were fun slides for me to create, so that's why I was using them so often. I had to reuse them to get some mileage out of them. One of the things that quantum theory has offered to us is the realization that we are not permanent. We're not solid. We're not we're not as solid as we think we are. We look around and we see these objects in our experience, and we consider them to be permanent until we throw them away. And of course, in the American consumerism, that happens more often than not. But physicists will tell us that these things that we see are only real, they are only manifest when there is a conscious observer. And that's very difficult for us to grok. There is also in quantum theory, there is the idea that time is irrelevant. If you were somehow able to hitch a ride on a photon, and that is impossible, but if you were able to hitch a ride on the photon, and you set off from one side of the universe, if there is such a thing as a side of the universe, but if you set off from way out there and you went way over there, scientists estimate that that's about 93 billion light years now. Creation occurred via the Big Bang 13 billion years ago, but the expansion of the universe has created that bubble that we consider to be 13.7 billion light years in radius is now actually 93 billion light years across. But if you were able to hitch a ride on a photon and you set off from that edge of the universe to that edge of the universe, it would be an instantaneous trip for you. Huh? I just said that it was 93 billion light years across in the existing known universe, estimated. How could it be instantaneous? Well, it could be instantaneous because time is irrelevant in the quantum domain. And the quantum domain, it turns out, is the underlying structure of this universe. So time is irrelevant. Now, it turns out also that space is probably just as irrelevant. And you may say, well, David, there's some distance between you and I right now. That's space. Well, yeah, it is from our perception. Okay, so I'm challenging our thoughts about day-to-day life, where we think that time and space are important in our day-to-day. And when we think that, what happens is that we consider prayers to be magical, that we pray for something to arise, and that something, if it arises, we say, oh, wow, that's a miracle. Turns out that A Course in Miracles talks about a miracle, not in terms of manifesting something magical, but rather about transforming an ancient hatred to a present love. Transforming a fear, a hatred is a form of fear, transforming a fear to a present love. And as we think about A Course in Miracles and this concept that a miracle is really a transformation to love, to unconditional love, if we are caught in this idea that this is permanent and that time elapses, then we get hung up in, well, how could that fear be transformed? Well, it can be transformed because of our choice. And the interesting thing is that we are choosing beings. We choose our experience. You may say, well, my experience is foisted upon me. I had this problem, or I have that malady, or this relationship has gone south, or we can come up with many different examples of how we think that our physical world somehow dictates our experience. But it's quite the opposite. It is our attitude, it is our mindset, it is our choices that dictate our experience. And it's important for us to let go of these ideas of permanence and time. We let go of those, and it is much easier for us to grasp, to grok really, this idea that we are choosing beings, and we are choosing our experience. Buddhism has this concept of impermanence. And that concept of impermanence is, oh, you have the current one. That's the current one. This concept of impermanence in Buddhism is one that is, in every instant, creation manifests and dissolves. This is an ancient wisdom. This is 2,500 years old. This idea that in any given instant, creation manifests and dissolves, manifests and dissolves, manifests and dissolves. When we think of this in the context of quantum theory, we're thinking of manifestation when observed and not manifest when not observed. And that idea of impermanence in the Buddhist condition, in the Buddhist theology, is one that actually merges well with this concept of manifest and observant when observed, not manifest when not observed. This idea of impermanence, then, is one that emphasizes that our choices on an instant by instant by instant basis has an effect on how this experience manifests. So we can let go of, well, I made that choice yesterday and that's causing these problems today, and I project that that's going to cause that ramification to occur tomorrow. Wait a minute. We made that choice yesterday. Today we can make another choice. We made that choice 2 hours ago, but today, or this hour, we can make this choice. We made that comment last minute, but this minute I can shift and I can make a new choice. My daughter and I, last night I was getting ready to heat up this muffin, this pumpkin streusel muffin that you can get at Costco now. It's a seasonal item, and pumpkin streusel muffins are now in season. So you can pick those up after service. You don't need to leave during the service. But I just heated up my pumpkin streusel muffin, and and so I was getting ready to sit down and eat it, and my daughter, who lives with me, my daughter and her family live downstairs. I say downstairs, actually, they've taken over the whole house except my office and our bedroom. But they live with us, and so she said, "Oh, I've got cream cheese." And I said, "Oh, that's great. Here, let me get it." So I got the cream cheese out, and I was starting to open it at the end. You know, you get a block of cream cheese. And I was going to open it at the end. And she said, no, let me show you. You can unzip it there along the long edge. I said, yeah, but if you unzip it along the long edge, what you're doing is you're exposing that long edge to air, and that's going to make that cream cheese harden up, right? And I said, if you just cut off the end of it, then you can just squeeze it out, and you actually don't have to expose the cream cheese to air at all. You can just squeeze it out a little bit at a time. And I realized, as I was demanding that you cut off the end and she was demanding that you open the zipper on the top, that we were an awful lot alike. And I said, "Shannon, I apologize. I've taught you too well, and we are way too much alike to tolerate." So So we can make a choice, you know, we can make a choice as to how we address this moment. And this Buddhism, this concept of impermanence, gives us absolute freedom to do that. We can make a choice right now. We can change how we approach this right now. So as we look at our spiritual path, as we look at our day-to-day choices, as we look at our intention to grow and to expand and to embrace the greater delight and the greater magnificence of this opportunity to create our experience. To create our experience. We don't have to be limited by these traditional laws that we think that, well, I made that choice yesterday, it's going to be hard to make a different choice today. Au contraire, it is very easy to make the different choice today and to make the choice that is going to grow us. There is a concept in philosophy that it's called solipsism. How many of you are familiar with solipsism? Solipsism is a philosophical idea that only one's own mind is sure to exist. As an epistemological, that's easy for you to say, that means theory of knowledge. From the theory of knowledge, solipsism holds that knowledge of anything outside one's own mind is unsure. The external world and other minds cannot be known and might not exist outside the mind. Now, think about that. This is not about the individual separate apart me that we're talking about. We're talking about mind. Mind as that which permeates all, that which is the embrace of all, the divine mind. Roger Penrose. No, I'm sorry, John Wheeler. John Wheeler, this physicist that departed, I think it was in 2008, a preeminent physicist of the 20th century. He said that it is unreasonable for us to think of the universe and ourselves as separate. He said that we in fact co-arise with the universe. That is, the consciousness and the universe are so intimately intertwined that it could not be that there is anything separate and apart from consciousness. And he's talking about consciousness. I would interpret how he's talking about consciousness. He's talking about consciousness as the consciousness that permeates the universe. I've spoken to you about God as being consciousness itself. That's the consciousness I'm talking about. That consciousness that permeates the universe. And this idea that consciousness permeates the universe and that we are part and parcel of that consciousness, Charles Fillmore offered us this quote. He said that the mind of God is spirit, soul, and body. That is mind, idea, and expression. The Trinity, in his perspective, is mind, idea, and expression. The mind of man is spirit, soul, body, but not separate from God mind, but existing in it and making it manifest in an identity peculiar to the individual. So you, as spirit, mind, and spirit, body, and soul, you are resident within the greater spirit, mind, spirit, soul, body. You are resident within this greater domain of me. Okay? So let go of the concept of me as being separate and apart, what the Course in Miracles talks about as the ego. Let go of that concept and realize that the me that you are is the same me that she is, and the same me that he is, and the same me that each and every one of us is. We are part of the me that is so, as John Wheeler said, so inextricably intertwined with the universe that we are a part of this creative process that is continually going on. And how is it that we are part of this creative process? We are part of this creative process by the choices that we make. And the choices that we make are indeed connected to the choices that each and every other expression of that divine me makes. And that can be frustrating. right? Because the choices that you make and the choices that I make may not seem to be congruent. They may not seem to be coherent. They may seem to be at odds with each other, as we may have experienced this week. The choices, though, that we all individually make are part and parcel of what we all experience. And that our contribution to this greater me are the choices that we individually make and the effect that our choices have on those other expressions of me that are all around us. What's the implication here? The implication is that we are each an expression of the divine to the extent that we allow that expression of divine to emanate from us. And the quality of our decisions, the quality of our choices is really measured by the effect that our choices have on the other expressions of me around us. The quality of our choices is a reflection of the degree to which our choices are an expression of that divine me. And we can choose. After we've made this choice, we can see its adverse effect and we can make that choice. And to the extent that we want to hang on to the choice that we made last hour or 2 weeks ago or a year ago, is the degree to which the ego has imprisoned us. Has imprisoned us in this concept of separate and apartness. Separate and apartness. That is our downfall. We are not separate and apart. We are an expression of God, and to the extent that we choose appropriately to be the divine expression, what our choices will do is lift and transform those around us. As we are willing to make those divine choices, then our community is blessed. To the extent that we make those ego choices, where we are insisting upon the apartness, the separateness, the division of us from the other, the insistence that there is time and that there is space that separates us, to that extent, those ego choices curse the community. So what is our choice? Do we want to bless or do we want to curse? And I am offering this idea so that you can consider how it is that you want to be this afternoon, tomorrow, next week, the rest of your life. Do you want to be a blessing to your community, or do you want to be a curse? The choice is yours. We'll have our meditation. As we come into our meditation, as we rest in this moment, continuing to breathe with an acknowledgement of the gift that this breath gives us, this revitalizing of our body, this pause to allow the Spirit of the divine to roll through us, to transform us, to lift us. I'd like to offer the image of a web, the classic spider web. Strands going out from the center, strands linking each of those. And that we see this web extending throughout our community, embracing the world, indeed extending to the far reaches to the far edges of the universe, this web of consciousness. We are a node, we are a junction on this web. And the choices that we make affect those around us. Those choices being a bit of energy that we put into the web, if you will, like plucking the web. The immediate effect of those around us in the web is greater than that farther away. But we nonetheless are impressing upon those around us the decisions that we make, the choices that we make. Our words, our actions, even our thoughts advance either a blessing or a curse, depending upon our embrace of the me, the divine me, or a rejection of the divine me. In this moment, let us choose to be a blessing. Let us see that transforming positive energy radiating from us through the choices that we make. Let us see this transformation extending beyond our neighborhood into the greater, and the greater. Let us see these blessings that we create through the choices we make. Let us see them lifting and transforming those around us. Let us see their choices affected by the blessings that they receive from us as being blessings to their community. And let us see these choices, these blessings, radiate out through the entire web, lifting and transforming each and every individual expression of the divine me. We breathe into that. We see this radiating energy, the radiating blessings moving out further and further. And we envision that the choices that are being made today are blessings of love. Transforming the fears into unconditional love. Miracles upon miracles upon miracles radiating from our choice to be the blessing in our community. And for this opportunity to be the expression of the divine me in this moment. Let us come back into the time and space, sharing the words of the Lord's Prayer. Our Father,